Okay, so imagine learning a language without a single word of translation. The teacher holds up objects to help you, they kind of gesture things to help you understand the meaning, and they ask questions, and you can only respond in the target language. Sounds pretty tough, doesn't it? But this is what we would call the direct method. Welcome back to Teacher with Mickey and Ida. I'm Mickey, and today you and I are going to have a quick chat about the direct method. And we are thinking about how this method works, why it influenced other approaches like situational language teaching. So let's start by thinking, what is the direct method? So the direct method teaches entirely through the target language. So meaning is through actions, pictures, like real things in the classroom, and through demonstration as well. So there is no translation in this method, and grammar is learned inductively rather than being explicitly taught. So this means that learners notice patterns, which would be the grammar, in examples and gradually understand how the grammatical system works without specifically being told about it. The goal of direct method is practical everyday communication. This method emerged really as a response to grammar translation, which relied so specifically and so carefully on the teaching of rules and the teaching of written or understanding written texts. Okay, so how did the direct method actually work in the classroom? So direct methods were usually fast, they were usually interactive, and usually it was about visible concrete situations. The teacher would ask a series of graded questions and learners would respond immediately in the target language. So for instance, I could hold up this and I could say to the learners, this is a pen. And then I could say to them, is this a pen? And then I could say to them, whose pen is this? So the learners need to understand because the meaning is tied to what they can see in front of them. So it's this real concrete thing in front of them. So teachers use realia, so it's a real thing I've taken into the classroom, and learners repeat sentences, follow commands, identify items, and answer questions that gradually introduce new structures to them. So let's think about some of the successes of the direct method and why it has worked in the past. So the direct method assumes that learners understand better when new language connects to concrete experiences. When learners see objects or pictures or actions, they can begin to form clearer concepts in their mind and notice the relevant features more easily. So what's important from the teacher's point of view is that they engage in some guided questioning, because this helps the learner to move from the concrete to the abstract, and concrete things are much easier to understand than abstract ones, and therefore are much easier to teach as well. So the teacher in the direct method shapes attention, supports noticing, and encourages learners to verbalize their understanding, and therefore the brain is working. So the method's strength really comes from this grounding in meaningful activity, and meaningfulness is important to engagement, and engagement is important to learning. Okay, so let's think a little bit about the limitations of this method. So the method relied on teachers with a really high proficiency, because all instruction in this method is in the target language, so there's no L1 at all if you were to follow it really carefully. So it worked best with concrete content that could be like literally shown, look at this thing, or something which could be demonstrated, which in honesty is like quite hard work for a teacher. Also, the pace and constant questioning that is necessary in the method can be really demanding, especially in large class sizes, and the method became difficult to scale. So it worked fine in small class settings, but in the public system, it just really wasn't feasible. Okay, finally then, let's have a think about the relevance of this method to TESOL today. So, even if we don't use the direct method in its entirety, like, come on, the English only classroom is a totally dead concept. So, we're not going to use it in its pure form, but it does leave some important insights. So, for instance, the use of real objects and pictures, when possible in your classroom, is actually a really useful thing to do. Another thing is asking questions. Asking questions in the classroom can really help our learners to think. And the other idea, guiding learners to notice patterns instead of just like giving them these rigid grammar rules, is also really helpful. To sum up then, with any method that you use or you find in the textbook or in the literature, think really carefully about it and think which aspects of it can I use which are appropriate for the students I have, and how can I adapt it. We would love it if you could like and you could subscribe and also leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.